All right. Chance is caffeinated. He's got his big mug of coffee to talk growth activities. um, I love this. I don't know if James, I think you put this in possibly, or one of us did, but like this is a common mistake I hear in the new inspector class up at Internachi, which both of you have been to, where they don't come out and say this, right? No one says like I'm just going to get business because I'm here. But when we talk about growth activities, some of them just say, "Oh, I know a few realtors, my kids' soccer team's parents. I'll be good." Probably a mistake, no?
Yeah. Oh, definitely a mistake. I mean, building a business, as we talked about in the first part of the series, it's all about, the hard work to build a business and to market yourself and get yourself out there. And just to assume that kind of your ship is going to come in because you launch a business is going to lead to some heartbreak. So definitely it's about hard work.
And I always make sure to tell inspectors, like, I don't think anyone thinks this on purpose. It's more of kind of like you're so busy registering your business, trying to get your template right, doing all these other things. And then you kind of assume once people hear about you, they will just use you. And I think most agents have inspectors they know. So you got to compete. So I think that's just acknowledging that. Like, I don't think anyone purposely goes in like this. It's more of the default of just like, oh, it'll just happen. And then when it doesn't, there's kind of this shock of like, oh crap, like growth activities are hard work.
Absolutely. And I think the other piece of that too is if your business takes off and you have a peak, it also doesn't mean you stop doing these growth activities, right? Like you got to continue on it because if everything you're doing, bless you there, Kevin, if everything you're doing is, to get you to that point where you're busy and then you just stay busy with home inspecting and not busy on marketing your business, you're gonna find a lull again. It's gonna come and you're gonna have to kind of rebuild from there. So make it an everyday thing.
That's such a good point coming into winter. And like, I know Chance, you're talking to experienced inspectors who are feeling some pain. Some of them are still feeling a decrease in inspection volume, but like growth activities are where like you have to focus on it at all times, even when times are good.
Yep. Yeah, and it's again it's that mind shift set. You go from being a home inspector to being a business owner operator, and it's tough to find that time, but you do have to switch that cap, give the effort. But to get that time, think about your processes as a business owner. How can you automate things that you don't have to do the mundane tasks that take up an hour when you could be using an hour to market yourself?
And at IEB, they always talk about this, how like when everyone's plentiful with business, they're like, oh, I don't need to like nurture agent relationships or go find more business. But man, winter comes fast. This environment, mortgage rates I checked today, it's like 7.6% on the 30 year. So that means less volume, which means jobs just aren't falling from the sky anymore. So I think everyone has to carve out time all the time. So let's get into some examples here. So like we're starting to put out more content, James, on how to research top agents and where to go. We could just dive into this one because I think that research is what I see missing. I mean, I don't know how many times any of us have got questions of like, well, how do I find agents in my area? So like
Yeah.
where do you guys recommend starting, even on that one, even if it's just like basic tips?
I mean, I think for me, and this is something I learned from you, Kevin, is, Zillow does a pretty good job sort of putting out realtors and putting their information out there and also giving you the opportunity to see them almost stack ranked based off of their ability to invest in their own business, which a lot of times is a sign that they're having the income to then be able to go out and market more. So, yeah, digging into Zillow, I think is a really good way. Chance, I don't know if you have some other thoughts that you've learned from inspectors.
Uh yes, but I've also love this one from Kevin. Everyone's going after the big fish, the top agents. They are smothered by home inspectors. What about the new agents coming in the industry? They need to be taught things. They need to establish their own networks and relationships. So there's nothing wrong with thinking in almost the opposite way and going for the smaller fish first. And it's kind of you got to pour into both buckets. Go for the big ones, go for the little ones, and kind of find a happy in between relationship there. So don't just get distracted by who's making the most money.
That's such a good point, because if an agent's doing 3 or 4 deals a quarter, say, 10, 12, 15 a year, That's significant if you multiply that times $400 in inspection. So yeah, they're the ones that you can call them maybe part-time agents that like they're not getting solicited every day. Maybe they're not in an office, and an email to them or a coffee to them would mean the world. That'd just be like someone out of the blue coming up to us and being like, hey, can I get you coffee to tell me about your expertise? Sure. We'll link to the video and spreadsheet we made to help you guys with researching top agents and outreach, because that's like the hardest part. It's like the top of your funnel of like create yourself a system for growth activities, because Chance, you can relate to this as like an account manager. It's like sometimes you show up at the computer on Monday and you're like, who do I call? Who do I contact? And there's got to be a system, right? And we have HubSpot, thankfully, to help us with that. But like inspectors don't. So we'll link to that spreadsheet. So outreach, calls, emails, that's a whole nother topic on its own, I think. I don't know, James, if you have thoughts there, feel free. That's kind of an art and a science in terms of how to call and email people as a marketer. I'm sure you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, it definitely is. We do have a sort of an email marketing 101 webinar that I would suggest, and we can link to that as well, to kind of go in depth there. But it is definitely, there is an art to writing a good email that people are actually going to read. Everybody gives websites and emails about 5 seconds max before they decide if they actually care about them. So things like that to keep in mind. I think checking out that webinar would be a good way. But I think going back to what you guys were saying, I mean, it is a process. So when we talk about outreach calls and emails, like really think about that as something maybe you do every day. First thing, you send out a couple emails to your list. You spend some time modifying or crafting them for that individual if you know a little bit something about them. But make that, again, it's a regular process. It should always be going on. If you're lucky enough to have somebody kind of support staff with you, or a spouse who wants to help out with these things, it's a great sort of daily thing to do. So yeah, definitely dig in a bit more on the email front with that webinar, and make yourself a plan.
James, do you have a perspective on kind of the mass approach or semi-mass approach, like sending in batches of 10, 20, 50 versus one-to-one? Like there's kind of an art there too, right? Like, I guess, do you have so inspectors ask this, so I'm always just like curious on everyone else's take of like, do I just blast out a good email to all of them, or do I take time with each one, which takes longer? So like, do you have guidance there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it obviously, classic answer, it sort of depends. But one way I think about it is when you send mass emails, it actually gives you an opportunity to open doors with people for more personalized outreach. So if you start out with a mass email and you invite somebody to, let's say you're doing an event or a webinar or something along those lines, or you're just having people to buy them lunch or coffee, and it's kind of a general opening the door, those can be sent in a mass way, and you can do that sort of in a nice way, so it looks like you are professional and you have the ability to send out these mass emails. But then, the thing that we always say is, as soon as you start getting to the point with somebody engaging with you, especially in the home inspection market, try to switch that to a one-on-one communication kind of as quickly as possible, because as soon as you can see kind of a sign that somebody wants to start building a relationship or is at least interested in you, that's when you should kind of take things into that one-to-one phase.
Yeah, I love it. And Chance, we're letting them peek behind the curtain of how we do things with inspectors. Because like, yeah, we're not going to say every email we send is one-to-one. It's like, for scalability, we have to send out emails to more than one person. And then who engages with that? Now Chance is jumping on a call or a demo or, a one-to-one. And so like, we kind of practice what we preach in that sense. I think coffee, lunch, like this is going to be harder winter than ever for everyone. And I think like quality over quantity. And I think taking time, spending $8 if it's a Starbucks to buy someone a coffee, maybe it's $10 now, I don't know. But that one-to-one relationship building is going to be more important than ever, I think, because one, agents have time and they're looking, they're struggling too. So I think the quality in person can't be slept on. I don't want everyone to just feel like you got to be at home and firing off emails. Like you got to get face to face with people. The rest of these probably topics on their own. I don't, Chance, do you feel strongly about any of these other ones? Newsletters, lunch and learns, social media posts?
I really do. I wish I had more case studies, but I think the newsletters is a great outreach. Like just that educational piece. People want to feel like you're adding value to them. So just educating and staying connected. Like like I said, I want to see the analytics behind it, but for me, that just that makes me feel good.
Yeah. I still subscribe to Andrew Sam's Alpine Building Performance. He's in Denver, and he's like the model of like adding value every week, because every time his subject lines get me when I'm like, oh, do you need to change a furnace filter? Like there's something in there that I learn. And so I'd encourage everyone to check that out. He's hopefully we give him some props, and he gets a lot more subscribers. But that's the answer to inspectors saying, Kevin, what do I send? I'm like, you guys know so much about homes, even if you literally just are in training or doing ride-alongs or just finished a course. Trust me, you know more than a 35-year-old new homeowner. Guaranteed. I guarantee that every time. So this is a short section because we could talk for an hour about building relationships, the soft skills, the research into the personalized stuff, guys, but like takes time and intentionality. So I don't know if either of you could speak to like the fact that it doesn't happen overnight. It takes like habits, scheduling it on your calendar, right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And I think, something, and kind of going back to what was mentioned in the last slide of just going out and getting coffee with people or having lunch with people. I think, and I always, this is a little bit weird of a tech bro turn, so I apologize. But in the early days at Google, what they always did when they interviewed people, when the founders were actually going in to interview people, their entire goal was just to learn something in those interactions, because obviously you're going to be interviewing a bunch of people for these tech roles, just like you're kind of talking to, getting to know, and building relationships with a lot of people in the real estate business. And so if you take the approach of like, I'm going to go into this, and even if at the start you're kind of feeling like, this person may not be doing a lot of volume right now, or maybe this wasn't exactly the right person to sit down with, still use that $8 you spent on the coffee to learn something from them about their market, the challenges that they're facing, any of those things. And by going down that path of trying to put yourself in the mindset of learning from someone else, you're going to build a relationship just by doing that, because that person is going to feel good that they're sharing information. Obviously, we all like talking about ourselves, some of us, maybe a lot of us, and telling our own stories. So what can you learn from these folks as you sit down with them and turn that into a foundation for the relationship?
Man, that's a nugget right there. And that just builds on what Chance said about like the mindset shift. Talk about a mindset shift. If like, I mean, all of us could use a reminder of that, right? Like day-to-day life. Like, what can I learn today? I love that one a lot. So mindset shift, we mentioned this, block off your calendar. I think growth activities always fall by the wayside. It's easy to kind of not do because it's hard and it's scary, but I think time blocking, just like other important things in our life, I think you guys got to consider blocking off certain mornings where you force yourself to think about growth and how to build in that outreach. Tangible goals. I mean, obviously, three of us try to do that in our jobs and what we do, right? It's like setting a number to it, because I see inspectors try to wiggle out of this one. Just be like, hey, I'm going to reach out to agents today or this week, and it's always like, well, how many? So having a plan, I'm sure we could produce more content on this in terms of helping them structure this. I think we've taken an attempt at it, James, but like we'll put more content out around this in terms of like a mini structure for them to get started.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that calendar blocking, I just got to say how important that is. If you look at my calendar, it's blocked off. It's basically my to-do list, right? And I think if you're somebody who runs off of a calendar, which you kind of have to be as a home inspector, put those chunks of time in there, and then just hold yourself accountable to spend that time doing what you say you're going to do, which is sometimes a challenge, but definitely block the time for it. It also just makes it an equal priority when you have time blocked for it.
Yeah, I think the shiny object sometimes to inspectors is the template or anything else besides thinking about growth or marketing. And I think you got to lean towards what's uncomfortable. So, Chance, any other thoughts on growth?
No, I think you guys did a bang up job. Lots of little nuggets in there. I think the best one, don't try and take this all on in a week or two. Build a good habit, microbytes.
Yeah. I love it. All right. Another area, some inspectors, I'm not going to judge everyone here, but like sometimes like to bury their heads and ignore is a website because they don't, maybe it's not your domain as an inspector. You know, it happens to be something we know well and do well. So it's easy for us to talk about it. But let's dig into like kind of why. Because guys, wouldn't you agree? We still hear some inspectors say like, I'm not too worried about a website. I get most of my referrals from agents. But this is pretty clear what today's home buyers and tomorrow's home buyers are going to be, right, James? I mean, like it's undeniable who's going to be the next crop, even if they're inheriting them or like getting money from baby boomer parents. The numbers don't lie here, right?
They don't lie. And these are, yeah, I mean, you just got to remember if you do fit into, any of these categories that are not Gen Z or millennial, you need to take some time to understand who these people are and how they operate. And this is, again, if you're getting in front of folks who are in the home buying process that fit into those generations, kind of ask them about their process of how they researched the houses that they were doing, how they were, found their agent. That might have been a little bit more word of mouthy, but what did they do when they heard about that agent? And, kind of one of the things we'll bring up in this section is the web is a big part of everything for them. So make sure that you're really thinking that through.
Yeah. I mean, we keep showing this slide to show inspectors that like what's happening now is not indicative of 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And if you are in this business for the medium to long term, you want to get ahead of this. So you're not like scrambling to catch up with inspectors that are thinking of how a Gen X or millennial is thinking. 71%. So it's worth paying attention to. This is a classic slide where a very real website of an inspector that's in business on the left and kind of more of a modern website that, we happen to build. We're not the only ones, but I think we do it the best. Chance, speak to me as what most inspectors would call a young person shopping online, and just give me your kind of reaction to the slide.
I mean, the left seems like my grandma would be in love with it, and it's got every button she wants to push, but she's already got her home. It's paid off. So for me, I'm overwhelmed by the one on the left. I don't know where to look. I don't know what I'm even doing there. I'm moving on. I got to find something else. Like I'm already panicked. But the one on the right, okay, I'm going to buy my home, schedule online. Cool. Do I need to know anything else? Not really. So it's just streamlined. It's easy. It's arguably a lot more beautiful, if that's the word we want to call it. Like just a nice sunset house instead of a Christmas tree leaf background from Word. I'm not sure what it is. I don't even know if there's a word for it.
Yeah. And James, talk to me about conversion, because a lot of inspectors don't maybe pay attention to, or don't, haven't ever studied the elements of what goes into a conversion oriented homepage. If you want to dive into that, when you as James decided you wanted to do something.
Yeah. I mean, I think the way to think about it is your website. Don't think of it as like a brochure so much, right? Because like a brochure is something that you assume somebody is going to look at all the parts of, read all the parts of, kind of walk through each step. And then at the end, they'll feel confident and kind of want to move on. It's like reading an article in the newspaper. The reality is your website, again, going back to that stat of like, you got 5 seconds, people's eyes need to find the thing that they're looking for. So if they come to your homepage and they're looking to book a home inspection and they immediately see, okay, that's where I press the button to book it. Even if they want more information before they hit that button, they know what they do next. And I think, digital marketing, anything that you're doing online, it opens this magical door where you have the opportunity to continue to push people to the next step. So even if I go to book, I can go to the booking page, I fill out the booking page. What comes after that? You have a thank you page. What does the thank you page do? What do you send them via email once they make that booking? All of those things can help them kind of push them through the process and make the home buying process better for them, the home inspection process better for them, which is what people want at the end of the day. So, I think it's really important to simplify what you do down to a point that people can understand it when they're looking at it really quickly, and then show them what's next. Always give that out. And I would say, did this experiment years ago, but just changing the color of a button on a website can make a massive difference if people see it more easily, if it really stands out. Obviously, this button in the middle of the page, can't miss it, right? It's kind of a dark background. It's white. It really pops. But I've seen a difference from a button that really blends in to a background, kind of sitting at the same part of the web page like this, to like 169% increase in conversion by changing it to a completely obnoxious color that doesn't even look like the website. So there's a lot that you can do. And if you think about that impact on your business of 169% more people actually converting on your website, that's, you know, that's inspection after inspection after inspection that could actually just come from a tiny, tiny tweak. And so remember that. And I think the other thing I want to say, you know, looking at these two examples, is if you look at the one on the left, I almost imagine that being is like showing up to your home inspection dressed in like a leisure suit. People are not going to take you seriously because you do not look like what they would sort of picture as somebody who's a serious business person coming to do serious business. And your website is that too. And I think every year we go forward, it's going to become that much more important that your website looks like, you know, the professional home inspection, nice polo, got your logo on it, showing up ready for work, not showing up ready for a, you know, a party in the 70s.
Oh, that's so much great stuff. I love all that. And yeah, the schedule online button, they kind of darken the background. The home looks kind of peaceful, kind of out maybe on a farm, some open space. So it kind of connotes some comfort or kind of like aspirational aspects. Look at the top right too. There's, in case you didn't just want to schedule online, you still have an escape hatch where they can call you, email you. I guarantee if you tap on call from mobile, it'll call right away. You don't have to copy paste. If you click on the email, it'll open up your Gmail or Apple Mail or whatever. So there's elements there to reach every kind of audience. And then there's a for agents tab that we build in, because what if I'm an agent and I land here and I'm like, I don't want to book an inspection. I want to know how you're going to benefit me. There's that. And then down below, oh, in Kingsport, great. Oh, radon. Okay, I need radon too. So there's just so many elements here. That's why I love we have this like time to break this down, because inspectors need to know it's not just, you know, a keyword on the page and then a button. There's so much thought that goes into all these elements, and it's kind of like psychology, no? Like for each of us, we all shop for things. It's fun to kind of like notice them in the moment when you're shopping, that like these are all psychological hacks that we can put in there. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this? We can bounce to the next one.
Nope.
All right. Mobile. Let's talk about that. We referenced it. I mean, how prevalent is mobile nowadays, James? I mean, like the percentages keep going up. I don't know what they're at now, but
yeah, I wish I could tell you for kind of the general stat across the board, but I would say, if anything, look at yourself. How often do you sit down at the computer and search for things for your home, right? I think, you know, I am a human being who sits in front of a computer all day. I still, if I was searching for a home inspector, I'd probably pick up my phone to do it. I don't know why, but it's just, that's kind of where my personal life lives, on my phone, not so much my work laptop. So, you know, it's one of those things where I think as an industry, you're ending up in a spot where people are most likely going to be researching you, thinking about you, only when they're on their phone, not sitting at their desk at work. So, you know, there is still desktop traffic out there. Not saying there isn't, but I would just say, you know, really, really, the mobile is so important. And as you can see on the left, like the side scroll experience on a website is, that's a killer. Nobody's going to do that anymore. It's the back button is basically what you've created there.
the nightmare. It's a nightmare. And I think at one point we did a few years ago, we looked up all of our booking, like the profile pages across the whole network, the booking page that we create for inspectors, how many views were on tablet and mobile. And I believe it was right around 60% combined, tablet, mobile, 40% desktop. So like that number surely has gone up as mobile gets better and better. On the right, James, schedule inspection button, it's orange. Like you said, love
Yeah.
it. Chance, can you speak to something we talk about in the InterNACHI new inspector class? Like, look at Chuck's smiling face on there. Like, what does that do in terms of you being a consumer maybe landing there? Because you're a big relationship builder guy. So like, look at that. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. Well, again, this kind of ties into what James said the last line. Like, I know my guy's not going to show up in a suit. He's going to show up in that branded polo. That's who he is. That's what he looks like. I've met him before I've met him, so I already have a relationship started. So I feel comfortable. Like I would feel a little nervous if I didn't know what the guy showing up was looking like. Like, some guy knocking on your door randomly, and who is that? Now I know. I'm like, oh, this is Greg. That's my home inspector.
Yeah. And I mean, he purposely did that based on us when we built the site, of saying like, hey, they feel like they know you if you put your face on there. And I think everyone feels a little insecurity. We talk about it all. Like we're putting ourselves out there right now, right? By putting our face on something, and inspectors might be like, oh, I feel like I know those guys because I've heard them speak a little. Putting a face to it only helps for me wanting to say like, oh, that's the kind of guy I want inspecting my house. Like, let me book that right now.
Yeah.
He's got some other, like, to James's point, supplementary information down below. That was the choice he made, to say like, let me give you a little bit of the brochure material down below, but like, I still want you to be able to book if you can. So there's different ways to handle it. All right. Basics. James, you want to talk through some of these? Because some of these are, we already talked about some of them, but I think some of these are worth a little bit more elaboration on.
Yeah. So I mean, visually clean, right? I always think, like, in my head, when I think of bad websites that weren't visually clean, I think of like the MySpace days when everybody got to be their own web designer and just kind of toss stuff onto the page as much as they wanted. That obviously kind of hurts people's brains these days. Everybody kind of aesthetically with websites has gone to something sort of bright, sharp, and clean tends to be a fairly common theme. And the reason that they do that is you kind of need white space, and you need sort of the visual separation that white space brings you to help people skim through the content, which is what they're going to do before they read. So that visual cleanliness is always something to go for. If you have also just like the coloration, if you go for a really dark background, and then maybe your font is a little bit on the darker side, you also have to think of people that have visual impairment, and it's really difficult for a lot of them to see those things. Really tiny text is another one that can kind of trip people up and make people hit the back button. So just kind of think through that. High quality images. We all now have phones in our pockets that do incredible things with photos. They just look great. So if your photo doesn't look great on your website, people are going to question, at what era did you take that photo? This is obviously not something new if it's a little blurred or not looking good. And things like, I mean, going to kind of the key photo here of the home inspector, you don't have to spend a ton of money on headshots, but it would be good to try to find somebody else to take a picture of you, not just like a selfie. It's find a friend, ask a stranger, whatever it may be, but have somebody help you out. And if you can afford it, getting a good headshot done sometimes can really be worth it. Logos are an important one because those are another sort of visual differentiator of modern versus non-modern. And so if your logo looks like something that was, maybe put together quite a while ago, or is really messy, or you're trying to include, the same words. Let's say you have a work truck with like a big magnetic sticker, and on that magnetic sticker, it's got your company name, it's got all your services and all those things. If you shrink that down to website size, it's just going to look weird. So make sure that you have just a very sort of clean, tight logo to be able to put on there. Tap targets. This is for mobile. This is also something that, Google does look at as far as search engine optimization and things like that, is actual accessibility and usability of your site. And so making sure that the buttons that you have on your mobile site, and making sure that those are really clickable and easy to get to. If you imagine you have two buttons sitting next to each other and it's hard to hit the right one, it's going to be really annoying for people. But also on the back end, Google's looking at your code and deciding if you actually have a good setup there. And if you want to rank well on mobile, your website has to be very mobile friendly. Call and email tappable buttons. Kevin, you brought this one up. It's make sure if somebody taps on a phone number, that's happened to me recently. I was trying to call a place, tapped on it again, kept banging on it with my finger, thinking there was something wrong with me. And it just turns out they never coded the thing to
Ugh.
have target. And so I didn't call because I didn't want to copy and paste. Like I just gave up because it wasn't that important to me. So people will give up on you. So make sure those are easy. And then the last one, I might want to kick this one over to Chance. Online scheduling, the importance of that. If you want to drill down there, Chance.
Yeah, real quick, let's hit that in a second. But like
Okay.
it on the millennials and Gen X piece, maybe maybe we update this too to say the tap to text is kind of underrated. Because I've watched my wife like hit the back button multiple times when she couldn't chat or text somebody. Even a higher rated service provider, I like watched her do this, and then we had a good laugh about it where she was like, "Yeah, I'll do anything to avoid a phone call." I'm like, "Dang, you're like a millennial for sure." So yeah, the tap to text button. Ask us about that if you don't have that. But Chance, let's get into the online scheduling. So we're gonna get into it in a second, actually, in the next section. So let me hold off and just say the point here is, in Chance, you talk to a lot of solo inspectors that have an okay website, maybe not snowflakes on it, like we talked about on the previous slide, but can you speak to the fact, like, I just can't emphasize this one enough, where you don't hear from people like James, that when you hit the back button, you didn't go and tell that business you didn't get a hold of them, right? Like
Nope.
it sounds simple. It's like, it's such a basic concept, right, Chance? Like, but you don't know when they back out.
Yeah, and that's what James said, that you want that convertibility. Like, I want to get to your website and I want to get business from it. I don't just want to have it. I don't want to be stagnant sitting there. It's not a bookshelf holder. We need this thing to be active. We need this thing to be engaging with folks. So it's one of those. I'm proud of you for having a website. That was the first step, but you got to keep walking. You got to make it better. You got to make it more modern.
And we know it's all frustrating, right? Like, that's like, we're always updating our code every, like we have what, 10, 12 developers now. So it's like, we know that tech moves faster than any of us want it to, and things get outdated in a year. It's no fun. But the fact is, pretty much everyone now judges quality of your inspection from your website. So get it right. Chance, we talked about this a little before, but like the survival rate based on the website, kind of interesting, right? Like a few years ago, none of us actually had any proof, but then we did like a cohort study of first year inspectors who you work with a lot. Do you think this probably will surprise a lot of the inspectors you talk with, right?
Yeah, no, and it's a shocking stat that you need to pay attention to. Like, I don't care how good you are at home inspecting. If I can't find your website, if I can't verify that you are who you say you are, that you seem legit, I'm out of there. And I'm on to the next guy. 5 seconds, I'm gone. So it's one of those, like, I'm glad you have a website. That's step one, but you got to make these advances to really get our business.
And the way you just said it plainly and concisely, that's how matter of fact I think millennials and Gen Z thinks about this stuff. And us three are perfect examples of that. We're just like, no, it's like not even a debate. Gotta have good memes in any good slide deck. So let's talk content on the website. We're gonna get to online booking in a second. But like, Chance, we always get the question from new inspectors, well, what do I put on the website? I don't know. Like, some of them are even like, what do I put on my about page? But like, if each of you can weigh in, Chance, will go to you first, of like the basics, and then as you grow, it gets into more of the marketing phase, which James and I can riff on.
The easiest thing you can do is hit pause on this webinar right now, pick up your phone, turn on the lights, and record a 60-second, 30-second video telling people who you are, what you do, a little bit about yourself, and then put it on your website, and then push play on this. Like, that's the easiest thing you can do to get going.
Please listen to Chance, everybody, because we just beg people, because like, people will feel like they know you so well from a 30-second video or 60-second video. We're doing like an hour here, but like, that's all we're asking for. Tell them about yourself, ask us to put it on your homepage. So for those that want to be ambitious, and I think this is the time and the season and the market cycle point to do that as you grow, this could be for everyone now, right, James, in terms of like going above and beyond? Because status quo, the bar now is the basics, but like, how do you stand out? It's probably these as you grow things. So like, what jumps out to you on those?
Yeah, I mean, the top one to me is, especially for new inspectors, like when you are doing those first inspections, ask for those reviews. Try to get those up as quickly as possible. Make sure they're on your website as well as on, Google and wherever else you have reviews. But definitely get, that's what we call in the marketing world social proof, right? People, you're trying to build trust with people, and you're going to build trust with people based off of reviews more so off of what you say. And we've come into this world, if you think about, if you're like most people at this point, and you go onto Amazon and you go to buy something that solves a problem for you but isn't name brand, like you're not going for a known brand, where do your eyes go, right? You go into the reviews. And while we know that there's a massive problem with false reviews out there on Amazon, if you start seeing a couple hundred reviews and they're all 5-star, you're going to take a chance and buy that thing. You are that object on Amazon to some people. They need to see reviews. And once they see those reviews, even though they don't even know who those people are who left the reviews, they trust that because that's kind of how we've been conditioned. So reviews, I think is just massive.
I love that. And to add on to that for new inspectors, James, you said this, like your first inspection, if it went pretty decent to good, ask for a review. And then if you're jiving with the agent, ask if they can like maybe talk to you for another 5 or 10 minutes and to build a case study, because then you're getting a lot of juice out of that one inspection. Because yeah, you're not going to get 100 reviews when you've only done one inspection, but you could have a page of content of how that agent feels about you and really get some mileage out of it. Chance, in terms of add-on services, so like new inspectors, I think, struggle competing against the big boys because the big boys offer everything, multi-inspector companies, all in one-stop shop, right? So I think even if you do one add-on service, it's worth adding it. But do a lot of new inspectors do you hear them asking about add-ons, the experience solos? Like, are they looking to add more services?
Yeah, that's the name of the game right now. Like you said, to make yourself more valuable, you have to have add-on services. You have to have the ammo in your gun to be able to compete at the duel. So yeah, add-on services, and it's one of those two. You can offer add-on services, and you don't have to have the sewer scope or the radon. You have to have the equipment. If you find someone in your network who can third-party contract that out, you can provide the value, and somebody else provides the service, but that still adds to your business. So I know it's an investment to buy these sewer scopes that are a couple grand. I know radon equipment to track and to take care of is tough. So if you're not quite ready for it, have someone else do it and just be that connecting piece.
Oh, I love that. That's such a great tip. Like you're giving bonus business tips here of like offer everything, refer it out, use your actions to send them the automatic, the home buyer information, time, date, all that. Cause it looks great on the site when you're like anything you need, we got you. It helps you compete. James, we'll move on. We could probably talk about DIY articles and videos and researching local real estate statistics all day. We could geek out to that, but I think that's like level 301 content to put on your site, unless there's anything you want to like implore inspectors to look at there.
Yeah, I would say the only thing, just looking at this last one here of interesting findings in your area, I think that's just something in general to always keep in the back of your mind as you're doing those inspections. Especially if you like are going into a neighborhood that's a bunch of new build and you keep seeing kind of similar issues, that's the kind of stuff real estate agents want to know, right? Like we just keep seeing, bad finishing on the windows. They're just not in right. Things like that. Like if you're running into those things, that's the kind of stuff that when you grab coffee with an agent, like you're the inside track on things that they may need to make sure that their clients are ready for when they're in the buying process and that home inspection is coming up. They can kind of give people a heads up. Hey, this is a common issue in this area. Maybe it's radon, maybe it's sewer problems, any of those things. The more that you can share, that's awesome. So always kind of keep notes somewhere of like, what do I keep running into? That can be great content for your website. That can be great for conversation. That can make you a better home inspector or look even, more knowledgeable to the actual home buyers. So that one I think is just so important. And I wish people would send us more of that information because I'm just curious.
I
To
love
see
that
what
mindset
they're
shift
thinking.
though, dude, of like zooming out to see trends, because then you now are an expert on what's happening as opposed to the kind of micro focus on each house.
Yeah.
and if it's out of, you've only done 2 inspections, 2 out of 2, 100% of your inspections, this has happened. Like, that's not a lie. That's marketing. uh, so hopefully we've given you some stuff to shift the mentality to like, do not skimp. Even if we didn't make websites, I'd say do not skimp on websites, because it is what we look at. It's what modern home buyers look at. We're about to get into online scheduling, and then let your website sell for you. It takes pressure off you as an inspector. If your site is converting people like James talked to, let it do the work. That's scalable, and you're making money in your sleep. Workflows. All right, let's talk about online booking. Chance, have you ever booked anything online with a service professional? And what was that experience like? Like, have you had good and bad experiences in terms of booking online?
Yeah, I mean, if it's streamlined, if it's fast, if I can do it in under 5 minutes or 10 minutes, because we're all busy. So I'm going to do this at the grocery store in line or at an oil change place while I'm waiting for my car to get serviced. That's the big one. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten 2 steps in and I'm like, man, I'm already tired. Like, I'm out. I'm gonna find somebody else real quick. Google, where's the nearest location, So it's one of those, it's got to be streamlined.
On those ones that you've backed out of, and James, you probably have experience here too to share, like, what was it? Was it like user interface, or if like just an example of any of those kind of like hard to book experiences?
Yeah, it's exactly what it was, and kind of what James said. I didn't know what step 1 was or step 2 was. Like, I felt like I was having to teach myself how to do it rather than just following step 1, step 2, step 3, and I'm done. So it's one of those, like, it's got to be a consistent, easy to follow workflow.
And something that I'd throw in there, because I usually go into online booking processes fearing for the worst. Honestly, every time I start one, I'm just like, I'm gonna be pissed off by the end of this thing. I don't know why. It's probably need some therapy at this point in my life just to help with this issue. But I do go into them almost angry to begin with, because I'm just like, this is probably going to be a bad experience. And the nice thing is that has not been the case as much these days. People have actual really nice booking flows on their websites, and kind of like the one you're seeing here. It's asking for the information that you're willing to give. It has kind of sensible steps to it. And when I go through this experience, I'm actually way happy at the end that it was so easy and it made sense and it worked. So I think there's also probably those people, I'm in my 40s, in that age group that kind of went through the transition from never booking anything online to booking things. And that middle part really stunk. So I think it's a good opportunity, if you have a good flow like this. A lot of people are going to be happy that it wasn't a bad experience, and they may expect that just walking in.
Great call. Yeah, and to your guys' point, you can see here there's like steps at the top telling you where you're at. There's a confirmation. It sets expectations, and like that's the biggest thing where I get pissed off is where like I don't know what the next step is, or I don't know what to expect, or I didn't confirm what I'm paying for here. All important things. And so that's just a big vote for online booking, right? And so for a lot of solo inspectors that may be watching this, they maybe don't understand you can automate a lot of this, right, Chance? So to me, it's like these things can look very professional, and it's okay if it's automated, right? Because like you've probably gotten automated emails, but you didn't care because it helped give you confirmation or reminded you about something, like a dentist thing, right? So like, can you speak a little to just like the power of this in terms of efficiency for solo inspectors?
Yeah, I mean, this ties in directly what we said about marketing. These emails probably take away a half an hour to an hour and a half of your day in the morning, get lunch, at night. Get rid of that and get your time back, and you can spend it on marketing or a coffee lunch date with someone. So don't feel bad that it is automated or kind of a cookie cutter approach. Like, we're all used to it. Like, I take no offense to it, and you can even still customize it. You can have in certain things called placeholders where your name gets pulled in, so it's still a personal email. I'm not just, hey, client 0012. I am somebody. I am Mike. I am Chance. So it's just.
And James, we've even seen inspectors like spice these up by putting articles on what to expect from your home inspection, 5 common defects in the Seattle area. Like, there's ways to make these like really good banger of emails, right? Like, it doesn't have to just be the dentist, confirmation.
Yeah, that's the thing, is I think this is setting you up. And I remember years ago, I was getting ready to do some public speaking, and I was doing some research into public speaking. And one of the things that they talked about was the introduction you get from another person is usually the best way to have a good presentation. And if you think about these pre-inspection emails you can send out, if you are adding those nuggets, if you are giving them a little bit more context or information, it's almost like it's setting you up. So when you walk in the door, they're like, oh my gosh, this guy is an expert. He really cares because he's trying to help, and it's going to give you this opportunity to walk in the door. And they'll be more confident in you, which will lead to a better inspection anyway. So this isn't just about automation, but it's about setting the table. And then same thing on the back end, obviously. Like, how do you follow up? How do you make sure that you're, thanking them when the payment is received? Things like that. There's all these little touch points that you can automate, but will also be very human and will make people feel good about you as an inspector and the experience, which will lead hopefully to those good reviews that you need to be successful.
Exactly. You only get so many touch points before you ask afterwards for that critical review that helps build your business. So we're just going to get into the software here, basically like efficiency of saving taps. This is a whole subject on its own. There's been, we've made plenty of videos on like the usage of the software, but we can each weigh in terms of like being efficient and not spending hours at home doing the inspection. That's how we made our name. That's why I think we gained a lot of traction early, was like a mobile app that was efficient. Chance, you've supported the app for a bit in terms of helping people with it. Anything that comes to mind when you think of just saving taps and saving time that you would guide inspectors on and kind of urge them based on who you've spoken with?
I want to throw out a metaphor. If you're building a house, you can use a screwdriver and screws, and it's going to turn out great. But if you use a power drill, you're going to do that same great job in a third of the time. So that's what this software does, is it just makes you be able to move faster. Even in here, you can include, default photos from other findings to have as a compare contrast. So you want the best tool to do your job. You can do it with another tool, absolutely, but you want that best tool and you want to invest in it.
Yeah. And I'll say, having been on both sides, the agent side, the home buyer side, and then like using the app, inspectors can give more to the client experience and the agent experience if they have a mobile app that feels smooth and slick and they know where things are and it's efficient. If they're fighting their app, that's less time you can think about educating that home buyer, making sure the agent's not freaked out that you're going to point out 30 red defects. So like it all plays together into like a good experience. And so that's just more of a PSA for inspectors of like, know your software, whether you're using us or not, and make sure it gives you the best chance to do an efficient inspection. James, the fact that we're marketing this all the time, anything to add there? Obviously we're biased towards our mobile app, but
yeah, definitely biased. But no, I think when you look at just kind of across the software landscape, right, the companies that rise to the top are the ones that make it easy to learn and use. And so if you're still deciding on what software you want to use, that's something to ask yourself. Is this something, obviously, is it reviewed well and are people happy with it? But also, with a free trial, can you go in and just test out the flow? There's going to be a learning curve to anything. But I think what you'll notice with sort of it's like a website, like a good website versus a bad website. It's going to be a lot easier to do things on the good one. And so with apps like this, try them out. You got to learn a little bit, but super important to know that that smoothness, the ease of use, that's going to make your business better, your life better, you more efficient, and give you more time to do better stuff.
Love it. Publishing on. Oh, go ahead.
I'll say what James just said. With whatever technology you do, you're going to have to learn. You're going to need support. So whatever apps you do choose to test out and try, make sure they're supported, because what good is a tool if no one will teach you how to use it and you have to learn on your own? It can be really frustrating. So just make sure you have that element of the app as well.
I love that. And ask your software provider, how many developers do you have full-time that are supporting this? How many support people do you have when I write in, at 6 p.m. at night to help me? We're coming up on 60 full-time people at Spectora. And so like, I'll put that up against anybody. So of course I'm gonna have a shameless plug right there, but publish on site. Got our boy Randy Lambert on here, who's going to be on the podcast soon. This is a tough one for new inspectors. I actually asked the last podcast guest I had of tips to kind of graduate towards publishing more on site, to work into everything we just talked about, of like, be efficient, don't do your inspection at home and on site, because then that's 4, 5, 6 hours. So I think a lot of it is easing into getting your pictures on site slotted in the right defect. And so it's not going to come natural on day one, but you got to start with section by section, kind of saying, okay, all my plumbing defects, I'm going to make sure to take the picture on site, add it to the defect. And don't take the easy bait of just saying, I'm just going to snap, 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 and I'll do it at home. Because I've seen inspectors get used to that over time, and they're in year 5, 6, 7, 8, and they're the bottleneck to growth because they can't do it on site. So publish on site. I guess, would either of you caution against new inspectors doing this right away? I think you work
It's
towards
case
it
by
right away.
case.
Yeah, I think you work towards it, and it's a confidence thing, right?
Yep.
So I don't know how much I don't know how much we need to chat about this, but do you either of you have any I guess caution or tips for new inspectors practicing this, putting photos in on site?
I would say the only thing for me is, I would imagine if I went, especially early on being an inspector, and I went to a place, I took a bunch of pictures, then I went home and tried to assemble that. I would probably forget stuff on the drive, and it would just take me a lot more, time, right?
Yeah.
I'd be working really hard to remember, okay, is this the picture of, this part of the basement that I found the pipe leaking, or was that the other pipe leak?
Yeah.
You may forget just the location of those. So don't put yourself in that position. I think what you guys said is like, set yourself up to be the inspector who learns how to complete as much of the inspection on site, so you never have to be the person who's not doing that.
Yeah, the first inspections will definitely take longer, and it may feel clunky talking to the client agent while taking pictures, but it does limit liability, I believe, too, to kind of get them in there and get your comments done. So just work on that from the start. That's kind of the takeaway there. So to kind of wrap this up, guys, repetitive tasks, automation, letting the software work for you to save time so you can spend time with your family or dogs or growth activities, whatever you want. And then focus on efficiency on site. All right, this was perfect amount of time for 3 sections. These were meaty sections, guys. Any parting words? Anything else that we didn't cover when it came to any of those sections?
I think probably for me, probably should have said this at the start, but I was at an IEB meeting recently, and one of the inspectors there who goes to IEB, one of their rules is, when you go to one of those meetings, when you go and learn something, take one thing and make sure you execute that in a week. And so if you've learned something here and you see that you could be applying it to your business, at least just pick one thing and try to apply it this week. Just get that forward momentum going, and then try to get yourself into that mindset of, it's checking off the boxes. What are the things that we can do every day to make ourselves have a stronger business? And that's going to be the thing that leads to long-term growth.
Great call. Nailed it. We can't follow that up. That's a mic drop. Take one thing. Well, thank you guys again. Another amazing session. We'll pick it up again in the future on the last couple bullet points on that slide, the last couple of items. But we hope everyone learned something here, and let us know in the comments if there's anything you took away from this. All right, fellas. Good stuff.
Thank you.